We did it, guys. We lived through Stephen Bomb 2. It was a hard week, full of gut punches and exorbitant amount of feels, but at least we can now finally start the healing process. No, it's too soon. It's too soon. Oh no! So it looks like Steven Bombs might just be the way Cartoon Network wants to air Steven Universe in general going forward. And honestly, while it's a little odd, I can't really say I'm not a fan of getting a bunch of new content all at once. It's been a fun ride both times it's happened. So I'm not just gonna sit here and review each episode of the second Steven Bomb, as I think that'd just take way too long. I just want to point out some interesting observations I made while watching this week, as well as some stuff I just found kinda cool. First of all, we totally have to talk about Pearl for a second. Holy shit, Pearl is thirsty. Like, damn. Between her downright cold and sadistic demeanor towards Greg and We Need to Talk, to her ridiculous dream and chill tide, Pearl clearly has Rose on the mind way too much. And apparently a tweet from Matt Burnett confirmed that Pearl's obsession with Rose was indeed based on a romantic interest in her, as if her actions this week weren't indication enough. But the whole situation gets even more intense when you consider Sworn to Sword, which just goes to show how unhealthy her obsession with Rose became, literally putting her before anything and everything, centering her entire existence around serving Rose, jumping into the line of fire and seriously injuring herself, completely prepared to die for her, and going so far as to honestly believe that she herself was worth nothing when compared to Rose. And even worse, Pearl started to unwittingly pass that destructive mentality onto Connie in regards to Steven while training her. This is some seriously, heavy character development that tends to happen all too often in real life when it comes to idol worship, so it was pretty cool to see explored in a serious manner in a show like Steven Universe. Speaking of Rose, this week provided a massive shift in perspective, at least for me, concerning Rose's character, instantly changing her from this pure, wise ruler to simply another member of the cast with her own flaws and prejudices. Despite being painted as supremely sagely and overflowing with wisdom by Pearl early in the series, which, given what we know about Pearl now, was obviously a recollection viewed through rose-colored glasses? The reality of Rose Quartz was someone a bit less empathetic, valuing human life, but also not understanding its innate complexity or breadth of emotional struggles. She sees Greg more as a pet or plaything than an equal in the beginning. It's during the events shown in We Need to Talk that Greg finally starts to catch on to this and calls Rose on it, which takes her by surprise and brings her entire perception of humans into question. It seems that even though she went to war for them, or maybe she didn't, perhaps that's just more flourishing on the part of Pearl, Rose never really considered human beings to be a species worth truly respecting, and it's Greg that apparently teaches her otherwise, if her entirely different demeanor later on in the canon during straight-to-video is any indication, when she leaves a message for Steven on the VHS tape and extols her reverence for human life. An interesting related nugget comes from Amethyst's comment during Greg and Rose's dance that she thinks he's Rose's favorite, with Rose also admitting herself that she's loved other humans. The fact that she has taken a liking to humans before and not realized their intellectual and emotional depth further places her character in an entirely new context for me. One of the more morbid aspects on display this week was the return to the kindergarten and the reveal of the gem fusion experiments that Peridot was looking into. Ever since Joyride, we all knew it was only a matter of time before Peridot popped up again. While her brief appearance was a bit underwhelming, it clearly is setting up another showdown that will be more conclusive at some point in the future, not to mention that her cameo allowed us to glimpse a bit more into the context of the Gem War, something we don't have much clarity on, as well as confirmation the ideals of fusion seem to be a bit more controversial than initially let on, and that Jasper's hatred of fusion might be less of a personal bias and more of an opinion held to some degree by homeworld gems in general. Fusion may not have held the same kind of reverence on the homeworld that Garnet holds it to, but they at least seem to see some sort of utilitarian value in it due to the horrifying experiments that Peridot was overseeing. Homeworld's investment in force fusion on what Garnet says were prisoners of war from Rose's side seemingly implies that the technique might also have played a bigger role in Rose's rebellion than we realize. Also, having to face down a bastardization of everything she held dear gave us a very rare moment of vulnerability in Garnet, and more emotional scars for Steven. Like Peridot, Lapis and Jasper also made a return this week, albeit in a different episode and less directly, appearing in Steven's dreams. While Peridot is far more mission-focused, electing to ignore the gems entirely and continue on with the mission unabated, Jasper is still clearly heated over what happened during Jailbreak, ready to attack Steven on sight when she saw him in the fusion dreamscape thingy. While Peridot just wants to carry out her mission and could end up being the more dangerous one overall if her goals turn out to be even more sinister than implied in keeping it together, it's pretty clear that Jasper would be the more immediate threat. If she can overpower Lapis and break free of Malachite, no doubt she'll come and hunt down the crystal gems. I'm a bit confused by Lapis, though. She seems to be purposely isolating herself, which doesn't bode well considering her situation, and will almost certainly come back to bite her in the ass later. Refusing Steven's help and deciding to martyr herself seems hardly wise, and even fusing with Jasper in the first place was a rather poorly thought out move, considering Jasper was on the ropes already and didn't have much of a chance of beating both the crystal gems and Lapis, hence the request for assistance in the first place. I'm curious to see where this all goes, and to get more clarity on Lapis's motives. I think, though, the most foreboding element on display this week were the hints that Steven might be beginning to question his humanity. Throughout the entire series, Steven has been the unyielding source of optimism and positive thinking, his youth and naivete allowing him to largely reject the ingrained thinking of the other gems and approach problems from a different perspective. Now that Connie is taking a far more active role, though, and he has another human to see the context of all these crazy events reflected on, Steven is starting to realize that, while he might be different from the gems, he isn't really human either, and combined with the subtle signs of everything the gems have unintentionally put him through, this could lead to some really dark places later down the line. One of the most telling bits concerning Steven's mental state was in his first dream, where he imagines the gems as humans in a cheesy, old-style sitcom scenario. This whole scene read to me that, in light of all the really morbid shit he's been exposed to, alien abduction, violence, and seeing all three of his maternal figures brutalized in ways that would kill a non-gem, this scenario paints the picture of what Steven really wishes he could have, a normal life with his ordinary-ish family, where the most pressing concern is if Connie will make it to the dance on time. The final episode was really a tease more than anything else, lacking the sort of finality that Jailbreak provided in the first Steven bomb. Luckily, Matt Burnett has confirmed that we're only a month away from another Steven bomb, so it seems like we might get some more concrete answers concerning all of the loose plot points during that. And to top it all off, it starts the same day as the new Gravity Falls! God help us all. Before I go, I just want to thank all my wonderful patrons supporting me over on Patreon. So all these guys on this list are donating to me monthly to help keep the show going, and without them, there would be no show. They get a bunch of free, cool, extra stuff that you can find on my Patreon. So if you would like to help me pay my bills so I can keep making stuff, click the link below or over my face to go be a patron. It's pretty cool and it means a lot to me. So thank you guys, and to anyone thinking of being a patron, thanks to you. So that's all I got for this video. Give it a thumbs up if you thought it was good, or give it a thumbs down if you thought it friggin' sucked. If this is your first time here, I make new nerdy videos every week, so be sure to hit that subscribe button over in the corner so you don't miss any of them. A big shout out to Adam for editing this for me. Without them, I'd have been too busy with my other channel, Rebel Pixels, and my motion comic, Sorceress Lost, to put this together this nicely. If you want to check out either of those projects, check the link in the description below. So what did you guys think of Steven Bomb 2, and how it compares to Steven Bomb 1? Excited for where the story is heading? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, I'm Tommy Oliver. Stay curious.